On Thursday, August 14th, we celebrate the feast day of St. Maximilian Kolbe, one of the pro-life movement's patron saints. Kolbe was a Polish priest, writer, and a Catholic friar. During World War II, St. Maximilian Kolbe was arrested and sent to the Auschwitz concentration camp for sheltering Jewish refugees from the Nazi regime. He selflessly offered to take the place of a family man condemned to die at the camp. The Catholic friar and 9 other men were sentenced to death by starvation in an underground bunker. Deprived of food and water, Kolbe and 3 other prisoners miraculously survived for 2 weeks before being executed by lethal injection. In 1982, Pope John Paul II canonized St. Maximilian Kolbe as the first martyr of charity.
Love is the realest thing. No one can take that from us, even now.
Triumph of the Heart tells the story of the indomitable human spirit and its ability to withstand deep suffering, and when united to Christ, bear great fruit even amidst deep darkness. In the film, Kolbe accompanies these 9 condemned men in the darkest hours of their lives and fights to build a brotherhood of hope amidst their suffering and despair. I had the pleasure of speaking with the director of Triumph of the Heart, Anthony D'Ambrosio, who shared what inspired him to make this movie. Anthony, thank you so much for being here with us today. So tell us, what inspired you to make this movie?
Well, it's a long question and a long answer to it, but I went through a time of great suffering in my life, and I had a crisis of faith, and in the midst of that crisis of faith, I was really asking a pretty pivotal question, which was, what is the point of living in the midst of suffering? Is there a reason to suffer? Is there a reason to live? And having grown up Catholic and having kind of lost my faith, I was really struggling with that. And I found a detail about Kolbe's story that really struck me. I had heard many times about his sacrifice. I'd known that he was somebody that had stayed alive for 14 days and was executed in the starvation bunker that in many ways the Germans lost because they couldn't kind of stop his or quench his indomitable spirit. But what I did not know was that he had brought 4 other men in that starvation bunker to the point of execution with him, that there was sort of this brotherhood that happened inside of that cell. And I knew immediately as I understood that detail that there was a miracle of hope that happened inside of the cell that he was able to bring to these men, and that in some ways he had something to teach me about suffering and about hope.
That's really beautiful. Now, you mentioned that in this time where he has this brotherhood, a lot of this film takes part in like a hidden part of Maximilian Kolbe's life. I imagine it took a lot of prayer and reflection and using your imagination in the Ignatian sense. What message do you think Maximilian Kolbe has for people today?
I think that we're living in the midst of a crisis of hope, and all of the butterfly effects that we see in terms of the culture of death, all of the trigger issues of the culture of abortion and of assisted suicide, all of these actually kind of stem from, I would say, a crisis of hope. And what I think that Maximilian Kolbe's life ultimately was about, and his death ultimately was about, was answering this question in the face of complete destruction of hope. You know, the Nazis at this time were almost unbeatable. Nobody could see any chink in their armor. They had totally destroyed Kolbe's life's work. He was sort of like the Bishop Barron of his age, had one of the biggest media syndicates, the first really big media syndicate in the Catholic space. And ultimately, what really resounds was this moment of decision for him to love in the midst of that suffering and to hope in the midst of that suffering and to bring that to his fellow inmates. And I think that the message of his life, the message that sort of I was meditating on that I needed, is also a message for our particular culture right now. I think there's no sort of question that JP2, as a Polish saint himself, was in his meditations very deeply moved by and influenced by this story of Maximilian Kolbe's life. A theology of the body, in many ways, sort of was meditated on right next to Kolbe's death. And so I think that right now, while we're trying to sort of bring forward the pro-life cause, we need stories of heroes that really show why life is valuable, even in these moments where it seems like totally meaningless. And that's really what the story is about and what the movie is kind of presenting.
Amen. And can you tell us a little bit about the approach you decided to take with this film? You spared no expense. Why was that?
I think that there's this classic trope that Christian or Catholic media is saccharine, it's cheesy, it's poorly produced, on one hand, and then there's this other frustration that it's inauthentic or not particularly loyal to the actual story or the actual saint, and trying to put sort of a political agenda from the 21st century into that person's mouth. And I think that our approach in flying out to Poland and doing this in many ways as missionaries of hope, it really felt like we were part of Kolbe's militia and trying to tell his story, you know. And I think that the craftsmanship that we're approaching, the willingness to go to the depths of that story, it's very gritty, it's very dark, it's very human and intense, and shows a version of Kolbe that I think many people will be like completely blown away by and shocked by and moved by, but in many ways also sort of like it's a gut punch. It's like Passion of the Christ. But I think that comes and flows out of the Catholic imagination. Mm-hmm. As Catholic artists, throughout history, we've been the ones that have been willing to present the cross, right? The crucifix, not just the empty cross, but the cross with Christ's suffering and his body on the cross, looking at that darkness and saying, here in this place, in this like most dark and difficult and ugly thing, the resurrection and the seed of divinity is buried. And I think that our approach to doing it with the finest level of craftsmanship, the finest level of willingness of courage, I guess, I think that really comes and stems from just being formed by the Catholic tradition of iconography and art and storytelling and wanting to do that justice.
That's very beautifully said, and I can't wait to watch the film. So tell us, how can our viewers watch Triumph of the Heart?
Well, it will be coming out in theaters in September on the Feast of the Holy Name of Mary, September 12th. So go to your local theater, your local AMC or whatever, just find us on Google and search for us, and you'll find screenings in your area. If you'd like to make sure that it comes to your city, you can buy out a theater or volunteer to host a screening. So you can find more about that on our website at triumphoftheheart.com.
Wonderful. Thank you for being with us today, Anthony.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.